Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Harley Quinn Season 4, Episode 6. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. It never crossed my mind that legitimately Nightwing died last episode. They kind of talk about like, oh, another hero's dead, but I was like, wait. I was like, isn't he like, I mean, to my recollection, and do correct me in the comments down below, isn't he the only hero that's died in this show? I mean, I'm sure there's other heroes that have died, like, in the canon of this universe, but over the course of the show, we've seen plenty of regular Gotham citizens die, and we've seen a handful of villains die, but we've never seen a hero die. This is the first in this show, which is kind of wild to think about. I'm trying to think in retrospect. I was like, I don't remember if there's been any heroes that have died. It probably has been, and I'm just not remembering it. It's just Nightwing's the first one. I just wasn't expecting it. Because the whole, like, I mean, maybe he's died in the comics as well, but I mean, also, it's like, the show is its own continuity. They can do whatever they want to. That's why they kill off villains like, oh, Mr. Pig. I mean, not Mr. Pig. Professor Pig, you were in one episode, we're going to kill you. Scarecrow, you popped up here and there throughout season 1, we're going to kill you at the season finale. Oh, Penguin, you're dead. So on and so forth type of situation, right? So I also love at the funeral, Harley's trying to get like a donation basket going around because it's like, right, at a time like this, if Batman was here, he would quote rap rock poets, and what was it? Rap rock and emotional poets, Linkin Park, but because we're filming this live, we can't for copyright reasons. But if we get enough money, like 15 grand or whatever, then I will sing it personally. And it's also like, I love everyone standing by us, the Bat family, considering like more likely if you're standing too close to the Bat family, you're going to die. And I love that you see the Flash kind of step away. This is like the first time we've seen like a gathering of heroes in a while on this show. So it's just interesting. I mean, it makes sense that they would all gather. I wonder if this is the first time seeing the Hulk people because we see Hawkman and Hulk Girl. So I think we've seen John Stewart a couple times. Obviously Wonder Woman and Superman and the Flash. So makes you wonder which Flash it is. I'm assuming it's still Barry, but actually never know with this continuity. Because jumping ahead a little bit, we find out the person who's responsible for all this. I guess it never crossed my mind it would be Joker. To be fair, he went into his villainy bag, so I guess it shouldn't be too surprising. But he's like, oh, I went back and pulled another classic. I killed another Bat family member. So I was like, okay, so the Jason Todd thing has happened in his universe. So he's already died. I wonder, has he already come back as Red Hood? I wonder if they're going to make it so that Nightwing does instead, maybe? I don't know, which is interesting. And for Barbara to kind of take it as hard as she did, I mean, loss is never going to be an easy thing. Obviously, her dad and her mom are still around, but I'm curious, does that mean maybe she wasn't Batgirl? I'm assuming, because I don't know what her continuity, how it lines up with the other Robins throughout the continuities. Like, usually when she joins, like, is Dick still Robin? I'm sure in some continuities he's still Robin. I mean, even take Titans, for example. He was Robin while she was Batgirl. So that's why I'm wondering, like, because to be fair, she didn't join the squad until recently. And I mean, obviously, season 1 and 2 never really focus on Nightwing. We didn't get introduced to Nightwing until last season. So he must have, like, Dick must have already done his stint as Robin, because by that point, like, Damian had already been Robin. So that means we've already gone through potentially Jason Todd. Maybe Carrie's already been Robin. Even Tim Drake has been Robin. So I was about to say, who else? Stephanie might have already been Robin as well. Or was she just Batgirl? I always conflate that. I always forget which one. I always forget which one it was. Was it Stephanie or Carrie who was both Batgirl and Robin at one point in time? Either way, tangents. I think it's Stephanie. Stephanie was Batgirl and Carrie was on. I think Carrie was just Robin. Stephanie's the one that Stephanie Brown was at one point Robin, and then at another point she was Batgirl. Either way. Tangents and all that aside, so it's like, so the Bat family does have deep history in this. They just haven't really tackled it or really referenced it, at least not to my recollection. To be fair, it's been a little while since I saw season 1, season 2, so there might have been little nods and references that I just didn't catch at the time or just don't remember. But my whole point for it's like, right, so it must be a situation where, yeah, she now in retrospect, it's like, of course, like, if Dick has become Nightwing, and I forgot, like, right, Babs didn't become Batgirl until season 2, so she's relatively new to the family because Damian already kind of has superior, like, seniority because he was already Robin by then. So it's like, okay, so this is her first time losing somebody, so it's understandable why she would take it as hard as she is. I mean, she took it super hard. She started lashing out against everybody, especially Harley, because it's like, right, your girlfriend leads the Legion of Doom. Even if she isn't the one responsible for it, she's still the one who's at the head of it, and like, she still kind of is okay with it. And this has developed and caused major issue. I'm curious to see if we're going to see Harley and Ivy break up by the end of this, because Harley's in a very tumultuous situation right now. The sleepwalking is getting bad. She's in front of Frank. He's like, she shaved one of Catwoman's cats, was stabbing all these pillows, opening all the doors, and screaming in each one of them in the closets for like 60 seconds. That is kind of sad that, like, hey, Ivy stopped by for a minute, but she didn't even realize I was here. But Frank is like, I covered for you, so I guess he hid Harley in her, like, sleepwalking stance and didn't bother telling her, because I guess it's like, right, you don't want to see her in that. You don't want Ivy to see you in that way, but it's like she wanted to surprise Ivy because the Bat family's kind of splitting up right now. I even love that line from Harley where it's like, okay, Nightwing was able to do what he couldn't do in life, and that was show that the Bat family is weak right now, or something like that. I even love that Toyman busted up he mainly did it to destroy, like, that, well, oh my god, what was that stupid pun? What was it? Never forgotten. I love that because it's P.O. as in pho. I was like, and it's like a pho food truck, and he destroyed it because he's like, well, I have an issue against, like, noodles, but also, I'm kind of going for attention. I'm like, hey, Toyman. I'm trying to think in retrospect. I was like, is Supergirl the most recent time I've seen a version of Toyman? That might be the case. I don't know if I've seen Toyman in any other capacity since Supergirl. I don't think. In retrospect, I don't. Either way, tangents and all that aside. But like I said, like, Harley is kind of torn because she is, like, still that villain inside, but there's, because, like, villainy kind of been her thing for so long, and she's redefined herself as a hero. Like, once again, she walked that path of that anti-hero stuff because she wasn't really actively being a hero. She was just doing stuff in her own best self-interest, and it just happened to coincide with some heroic stuff, but she really stepped up last season as a hero, and now, like, I think that's causing, like, a lot of, like, psychological issues. To be fair, it's not like Harley's ever been the most sane person, going from Harley Quinzel to who she is as Harley Quinn, and now she's Harley Quinn the hero. So it's like, yeah, you've kind of gone through multiple identity crises, and then obviously I'm sure it deals with, like, some, like, deep-seated psyche issues in her psyche and stuff. So it's manifesting itself now with just all the stress and the complications in her life, that it's fine. All of it's finding its way out. Just like Babs is kind of having her breakdown now, Harley's been having hers. It's just been kind of happening off screen. Damian, I love that he's kind of like, I want to go with my mom, and it's like he's acting like a kid because, well, let's not forget he is actually a kid, so it is funny seeing him like that. I'm sure because there are people who are just like, I hate Damian, he's such an asshole, which some people love Damian for being an asshole, like seeing him as such a, like, oh, I'm a baby, like, type of thing. I'm sure some people are like, yeah, Damian sucks. So I'm wondering, is that kind of why they're, I mean, once again, he is a kid, and it is pretty traumatic, even though it's like, right, you are, Talia al Ghul's kid, you're connected to the League of Assassins / League of Shadows, so, but at the end of the day, he's still a kid he's tried so hard to prove himself over the course of this show, but now he's entered in a teenage age, but I think he's still preteen, so he hasn't gotten to his teen angst quite yet, so still kind of baby mode, especially in a moment where it's like, oh my god, someone's coming to kill us, but leaving Harley and Babs to kind of pick up the slack, which is just, once again, it's like the family's, I mean, there's no Bruce right now. Alfred's off, trying to get himself sent to where Bruce is at currently, so yeah, and Babs has a lot of unresolved issues with Harley, even though, like, it's kind of, obviously before they became teammates, And even the whole last episode thing of like, right, don't want to force the family thing, kind of let it happen naturally. It's like, you were friends at one point in time, but I guess it's like Harley kind of always pushed you away, and now that she kind of wants to pull you in closer, it's just, the timing just never works out for that relationship between the two of them. And once again, it's just like, you're a constant reminder, it's like your girlfriend's the bad guy in this situation, and you also were a villain, so I'm lashing out against all villains, but you, even though you're by my side, like, I should be, I mean, it's like, right, when you're hurt, what do? You lash out and you push people away, even those by your side, so. I mean, Harley's dealing with a dead teammate, a dead family member, as she, once again, she kind of looked at the Bat family as like a new family, all the while Ivy's dealing with the Johns, which we never found out what their shtick is. I don't know if that's a character from because the moment they were splitting up, but it was too fleshy, so it couldn't be. But when they combined at the end of the episode, I was like, that's not going to be like Clayface. But it's like, I was like, has he been gaslighting Ivy? But it's like, he already kind of did his gaslighting thing in episode, was that 3? So I'm like, I don't expect him to do it again, but yeah, I should have known, because it's like, I guess they split off and cloned themselves, and it's just like, oh, we gotta send back these dolls of Ivy that she needs to promote, but we need to get rid of like the realistic butthole, which is like, why is that a thing? I even love later on the little girl, Mommy, why does this doll have a realistic butthole? There's layers to that, because it's like, why does a child know what a realistic butthole looks like? But yeah, the Johns are trying, they are the PR team that they are, but they're doing stuff without Ivy say so. I do love that this is probably almost it's this commentary on just being kind of like a celebrity, where it's just kind of like, right, you have this powerful PR team who are supposed to look out for you, but this PR team is kind of getting a little too big for the britches, and they're hyping Ivy up, and they're putting her in this powerful position, but they're taking advantage of it, because they're I guess they get powerful and feed off of like the PR advancement. Like, the more they make someone a star, the more they feed off of it. It's so interesting, because the Johns split off into what they did. I wonder, did Lex kind of keep them on a leash? Once again, I brought that up last episode, that I was like, did Lex send the Johns to Ivy just to kind of rise her up, just to break her off, or is it like he got tired of the Johns? Because there was only like 4 Johns around him. There's like 6 or 7 now around Ivy. Now, I don't know if that's just because Ivy was like building up and spreading her brand so much, like Lex, even though he was who he was, still reined things in until, like, obviously he lost his shit at Malcon. But I wonder, is it just where they, like I said, maybe they fed off of like Ivy's like fame and prestige and everything like growing. But yeah, she gets the squad together to help take down the evil Johns. I forgot what she called them. It was like the disaster. It was like the natural disasters. I was like, oh, I really like that. I like that team name. I was like, oh, that's really good. The natural disasters. That's really dope. But yeah, they basically destroyed like Ivy's like reputation, and then in turn ended up destroying the PR team by making it's like, oh, like I endorse all these dolls I'm heading, and it's like, oh, you kids can never be like me. To me, it's a freak accident that led me to become who I am. Plus, I luckily got superpowers instead of dying. Also, I'm a super genius, so none of you can be special. Obviously, she's tearing down all these children. To be fair, what was that line from Harley? It's like, I thought you were always afraid and like weary around kids with good posture or something like that, is what Harley was saying. It's kind of like an issue that Ivy has with kids. Which does beg the question. I mean, that hasn't come up conversation-wise. I mean, I don't think it had, like, last season or this season. I'm like, I wonder, is that... I mean, that could end up being a storyline element they go with if they choose to, of, like, hey, what if Harley and Ivy have a kid? Which I don't know if they've been in that situation in the comics or not. But I'm, like, wondering, like, that... Because I say that because, sadly, and I've talked about this in something else, where, hey, like, getting married or... having children is a way some people are like, right, our relationship's a little rocky, let's like fix it by getting married or having children. Not saying like everyone does it, but that can happen sometimes. So I would wonder, like, especially where the relationship is right now, where they are in a complicated spot, I'm curious, would Harley try something like that? Maybe it won't even be the kid route. Maybe it would just be like, oh, let's get married, and it's like, we really probably shouldn't. I'm so curious to see where things kind of go. like I said, the relationship was kind of complicated last season, and like any relationship would be. But I'm so curious to see the direction it all goes going forward with all of this kind of happening. Circling back to Joker really quickly, I love that he brought his whole family in, and his family's like super into it. They're like, nah, let's do it. And they're like all evil, laughing about like, oh, like, kind of love first, Benito being like, okay, could you either go full English or full Spanish? Stop doing the in-between. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then says something in Spanish, just like, Dad. And he's like, yeah, I want to go back to villainy. And they're all into it. They're all doing the maniacal laugh. It's like, there's actually a sweet thing to that where it's like, oh yeah, the family that stays together, villainies together. It's kind of sweet. I'm curious to see if they end up taking up any monikers or like what they're, it's just a nice parallel, just like where everyone, like, Harley's going off, done her own thing over the course of the show. And now she's doing the hero thing. Joker went off from last season, became the mayor. Now he's like, you know what? Fuck that. I want to go back to my villainy bag, and I'm bringing my girl, because I'm like, him and Bethany aren't married, right? I think that's just his girl. I think they're just dating. I don't remember if they're married or not. But it's like, yeah, you're bringing your family along, your stepkids and your girlfriend. Like I said, I don't think they're married, but I'm curious to see how that plays out. I mean, he's excited to be back, kind of laughing it up with the Legion of Doom after the fact of like, after accomplishing what he did, everyone's celebrating him being back. It's like, I'm sure they could have fun with that. That could even be a future, because I think all the episode titles are out. I haven't looked at them too much, but I'm also curious, about to say, like, one episode could be like Return of the Joker, just like the Batman Beyond movie. I'm sure there's probably had to be a comic named after that, but obviously my association with that titling is Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker. So it's almost like Joker's return in this regard. So it's almost like an interesting titling I could definitely see them kind of playing with if they decide to kind of go down that route. I think it's also interesting, too, that Babs is, obviously breaking down like she is. Once again, understandably, and obviously, like, breaking into the Legion of Doom and is like, oh, yeah, your dad works there, which she doesn't have any conversations about that. She says, I mean, to be fair, it's like, well, her dad left her mom at the mountains, and her mom left her to go get some dick. So, not really too much of a fan, I'm sure, of any of her parents, but she has a very, very complicated relationship with her dad, especially last season with the whole mayorship situation, how he played that all out. Like, obviously, like, I don't think her and her dad have been in a good spot since then, so who knows how that relationship has deteriorated, especially because he's hanging out with King Shark this episode, helping him be the single father. It's like, oh, like, I know what it's like, and it's just like, yeah, using all my bad tactics as a father to help King Shark, which, hey, for him, it's like he gets some help, and it's like, I don't know, Gordo's not the best person to kind of take advice from. You should know that. Like, everyone's kind of seen him fail upwards and also fell upwards, but also fell super, super hard, crash into the ground, publicly. So, like, but I guess King Shark's like, I'll take whatever advice I can get. I don't know if it's almost a thing of, oh, a bad father. It's like, well, we'll take some advice, as a villain, I'll take it, bad father advice. But it's also like, maybe the justification is just kind of like, in a weird way, I don't know. Obviously, his relationship with Babs isn't great, and he latches onto like, oh yeah, like, I have kids who actually do like me now, so. But yeah, Ivy and the natural disasters ended up taking down and killing the Johns. So Ivy's free from them, kind of got her proteges back under her wing, and kind of obviously they had their debut in the spotlight. So, but once again, all of that work has kind of led to Harley and her relationship being in a very odd, complicated space, because it's like, once again, Ivy had nothing to do with Nightwing's death, but she even said it herself of like, yeah, but it's still kind of like, it's kind of a good thing. And obviously, once again, that's also why Babs kind of like short-circuited like she did, because she saw all this propaganda of just like, oh yeah, Nightwing's dead, let's celebrate it. There was a cake for it. I even love, Ivy was like, the natural disasters are the only one she can count on. She's like, well, Bane, but no one knows where he is. It's like, well, the last time we saw Bane, wasn't it last episode? Yeah, he was stuck at customs in trying to get into Italy, so I guess that still hasn't been resolved. I don't know who he could really call, because he tried to call Nora, but that was kind of a no-go, so. I mean, really, she's not paying Bane any attention, even though he really likes her. She's more so focused on Captain Cold. Once again, makes a lot of sense. If it wasn't going to be Captain Cold, it'd most likely be like Icicle or something. Kind of a very depressing place where the episode kind of ends off. Like I said, the Harley looking around, seeing Ivy chumming it up with the other villains, and just kind of like, right, they're kind of pulling further and further away from each other. They thought they could make this work, and it's not really working. Now, like, the Bat family's kind of falling apart. Damon got pulled away by his mom. Babs is kind of like angry and raging right now, and Harley's kind of all alone as she's kind of breaking down mentally as well, because she sees another her as like, what the hell is going on? It's like, yeah, like, is it no longer even a sleepwalking situation? There's like her psyche kind of like physically manifested itself and is just out and about, or what? We'll ultimately have to wait to see where all of this ends up taking us. There's 10, I think this season's also 10 episodes, so 4 more episodes to see how this all plays out and how this continues to spiral into the insanity that is this series and this universe. So I'm very, very excited to see ultimately what where all of this goes next. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.